Welcome back to the Yanzhou campaign. Last time we defeated the enemy faction leader Cao Cao in battle, but also lost our own faction leader Lu Bu along the way. Our remaining officers went on to defeat two of Cao Cao's armies in some pretty decent battles, clearing the way for us to advance away from Juiyang, which we'd just taken, to go after Chou, a nice valuable city to the south, where the defenders sallied out, giving us a nice chance to fight them in the open. The reason they wanted to sally was to attack my poor county militia, who are now legging it, trying to get away from the enemy army pouring out of the west gate. My main force is in the bottom right hand corner of the map, and there's really no way to get over there before the enemy cavalry catch up to these men. So I put them in the Schiltram formation, where they just stand there pointing their spears in all directions and try not to die. Not such a bad tactic against pursuing cavalry, because the cav ride in and will be forced to engage against a unit that in theory they have a disadvantage against, but the sheer stat difference is so large that the class advantage we have doesn't really count for that much. One thing that we did have going for us was that the enemy brought over horse archers, and the horse archers, while trying to shoot my spearmen, spent a lot of time shooting the backs of the enemy's heavy cavalry, probably killing a load. That's pretty good. We also did kill some of them in melee just with our spears, but ultimately the losses that we took from the cavalry attack and the archery in fact brought us to our knees. Our captain there died. At the same time, enemy cavalry charged in and hit us again, and that was the end for that unit. They rout and now they'll all be taken out. At least that distracts the enemy for a bit while I prepare my army far away. It's Zhang Liao leading a decent force, forming up now ready to fight, and I was playing around with the different keys, trying to find out the answer to that mystery I mentioned last time about what it is you can do that makes the AI change your formation for you. In this case, didn't see anything unusual and we advanced as expected. The enemy decided to charge in with all of their cav, which was quite nice. They sent the cav ahead of their main army to attack us. Right here I thought I'll just leave these volunteer cavalry because they'll rout to our archers before they hit our line, but they didn't, and they actually hit our line where the archers were and killed a load of them, so that was rather negligent of me. More cavalry on the way in, so I'm putting all of my units in front in a defensive formation. The enemy actually don't charge the front of my line very intelligently, and this unit just skirts past the edge, forcing my archers to get out the way and eventually reaching my cavalry here towards the back. At least my cav are all heavy cav against their light, so we can just plough right back. There we go, the left flank is turned around immediately. Their horse archers have come over, and now they're doing a Cantabrian circle over there, but that's not going to help them very much once our cav get in there. And on the right, the enemy general was again fighting with some of our heavy cav who were just sitting around. My infantry aren't contributing very much, but as I advance them up, our army can easily take out the enemy's remaining cav, and we were also able to kill their general. With that sorted, the remaining cav run away, and we can start reforming to face phase 2 of the battle when the enemy's now weakened infantry arrive. I think they ran all the way across the battlefield to get to us, so they show up nice and tired, and they're also not in very good order. Their units are all over the place. Their archers engage with our archers, their crossbowmen I should say, and they're just getting annihilated because we have the skirmishing advantage. I spotted on our right that the enemy looked like they were going to try and go for our cav, so I'm sending the cav to just go off to the extreme flank to lead the enemy away. I was going to try and keep the skirmish phase going for a while, since we do have more archers than the enemy, but I realised the enemy formation is so just broken up that most of their melee infantry aren't very close to their archers, so I could just charge forward and drive the archers back and try and get some into melee. Most of their melee units are being distracted on the flanks, they're trying to go for my cav, and here they actually got some spears against our heavy cav, but we just drove right through them and routed them and they got annihilated. So now the battle's disintegrating. The enemy has no formation to speak of, and many of their units are just routing really quickly. They do not want to fight us in this scenario. They're too tired and their general's already dead. And for me, the main priority is to attack routing units rather than the ones that are still alive, because our objective in this battle is to completely destroy the enemy army, not just weaken them. We want to actually take the city in this battle, and that is possible if at least something from our county spears that were laying siege survived, which some of them will do since they were captured rather than killed, and if we can kill more than 85% of the defending army. And that's pretty much what happens. There goes another of their generals over here on the right. I think that was the end of their actual resistance. All of their units were routing at this point. And just generally we didn't see much fighting in this battle. It was just chasing routing units all over the place, so we didn't lose many men. A lot of the losses you see there will be given back to us because captured troops will be restored since we won. Indeed, it's going to be the captives of the militia that go and capture the city, since they were the only ones laying siege. There we go, we've taken Chou. We have to kick out a couple of wise men who are trying to convert people over to dynastic change, I think it is, with the Cao clan. They want a new emperor, preferably someone in the Cao family, as old Cao would have had it. After that, we can still see the enemy building up on our border up there. But that's not the main concern for this turn. The main concern starts when the Liu clan comes over, doing some sort of protection racket. They're saying we're going to attack you unless we give them some money. Accepting the deal would be a sign of submission, I suppose. It might make us look bad, but the amount they asked for was so low in comparison to our enormous wealth that I thought, well fine, you can take the money if that'll give us an extra turn or something so we can plan some revenge against you. But no, they did not even have the honour to actually go through with their own protection deal. They just attacked me anyway, so that sucks. We see troops laying siege to Shangyang. They're going to be reinforced by another army in a minute, and one more army goes up towards Lujun, just to the northeast of that position as well. Now then, we're at war with the entire Liu clan, which is most of our eastern border, and the Cao clan, most of our western border, so our big columnar-shaped territory is now under huge threat. This is the worst possible strategic situation to be in. There's some more bad news at the start of the next turn, although not necessarily bad news for us. Looks like the Yellow Turbans are at it again. We got a warning about this happening previously. These Yellow Turbans are kind of like religious extremist people, at least they're following religious extremist people. It's a religiously based uprising of the peasantry, not entirely unjustified either, because China's basically the feudal system at this point, and nobody cares about the peasants. So the peasants actually were dying and having famines all the time because of the warlords' antics, and that's why they're trying to overthrow them, which will include us if we do come across them, but they're in different places to us, so these uprisings are happening here and there. We'll see if we encounter any of them. Now back to our campaign. The first thing we need to do is not be at war along two gigantic fronts, so I sent a messenger to the Cao clan to see if we can sort out some peace. I went for peace and trade, so we can make some money off the deal potentially as well. They weren't interested, so I had to switch it down to just peace, which we'd seen before they were interested in. However, this time they say no, they don't want peace anymore, and that's going to be an issue for us, so we remain at war on both fronts. I can't ask the Liu clan for peace because I don't have another diplomat, and they probably wouldn't accept it at this stage anyway. We need to get some more troops here at Lujun because it's about to be set under siege. One little trick we can use is to send a general outside to look for mercenaries. Didn't get very many, but these peasant militia will suffice. I'll put them in the garrison, and I can recruit a couple of units there as well. Before I actually dealt with the Shanyang situation, I came back down to Chou to see what Zhang Liao's army should do next. Since we're still at war with the Caos, I'm going to attack them, and I ended up attacking Jian Wei's army here by accident. I was trying to do something really fancy where I checked his unit composition while also holding down the button to give the move order for some reason, and ended up in battle, a nice easy battle though. At the start of this fight I did some more experimentation and managed to get our guys to go into the weird symmetrical formation thing, but I don't remember how I actually did it. Doesn't necessarily matter. Maybe someone in the comments has told me what does this. It might just be not holding down Alt properly. You're supposed to hold down the Alt key to make your men move in the formation you've already given them, but this is an old game. It does have some jank, and I think something to do with control groups comes in as well and messes up what your formation is considered to be, and the AI goes a little bit wild. As for the fighting, we started off with a skirmish. The enemy sent forward one unit of archers, leaving their crossbowmen behind, so I attacked with my 5 units of archers and crossbowmen, and you can see how crossbowmen have a lesser range. Mine had to go out right in front of the archers in order to actually hit them. We had a classic case of Medieval 2 units don't rout at range. I've seen this in lots of Medieval 2 mods that I've played. You just can't rout units by killing them with ranged attacks. You have to kill them in melee to make them rout. So you do have to destroy units down to like the last man or the last couple of guys in order to get rid of them. After that I wanted to skirmish with their crossbowmen, but the enemy just charged us and the fighting got started. I received this light cavalry charge here. I thought it would be fine to just receive a light charge, but we did lose quite a few men in the unit that received it. Zhang Liao can jump in there in the centre and clear that up, while the rest of our cav are going to majorly outflank the enemy on both wings. However, the enemy's heavy cav charged into another unit of my swords here on the end of the line, and they just disappeared. They died in literal seconds. I thought heavy cavalry wasn't supposed to be very good in this mod. There was a thing on the forum where I downloaded it saying that it's not like in Medieval 2 where cavalry can charge into infantry and kill them because they don't have stirrups. But I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe they had a downhill charge there and that enhanced their power, but we just lost a whole unit in 2 seconds. Could have not noticed it if I was microing something else. At least the rest of the fight was fine. Since we completely surrounded the enemy, we could just go at them from all sides. Most of the infantry was easy to rout away, and we killed Dian Wei, who was one of the greatest warriors of the period. So that's going to screw over the Cao clan a little bit more. Soon after that, the remaining units rout. I think his heavy infantry guards took ages to get rid of. But there we go. Our loss is surprisingly high because we lost 100 men in that sword unit all of a sudden. I was like, come on, hopefully it will give me them back or something, but no, got some of our lost archers back. I still don't know what determines whether you get the men back after a fight or not is. It seems ranged attacks are more or less likely to actually kill your soldiers, and they sometimes come back after being killed at range. Anyway, Zhang Liao could now move to attack something else, but before I made that decision, I wanted to take a look at the Shanyang situation. I noticed that Gao Shun's army can move up to that position and potentially help, so after a bit of admin I'm going to do just that. I actually can't initiate battle right now, I can just move up to be next to the town in reinforcement range of the siege. But then another army that I've just put together from units recruited at Puyang and Jiying can jump in to get a fight started with Captain Zhao Yun. Presumably no relation to the heroic Zhao Yun of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms era, who must be a general somewhere on the map. Louis Feng, Liu Bei's adopted son, is here with a couple of decent units, but overall the advantage is ours here. As it turns out, I'm actually not going to be bringing you this battle, for reasons that will become clear. Here is my first attempt at fighting the battle. You can see by the stuff in the top right that I accidentally allowed the reinforcements to be commanded by the AI, which caused them to do pretty much nothing in the fight. They weren't very helpful. But the game ended up crashing just as we were about to win, so I came back for a second attempt, this time controlling the units myself. And again, as we approach victory, you'll see the game just freezes. I was rudely reminded then that Medieval 2 isn't stable. I remember when I played this mod ages ago, I had the same problem. It would randomly just crash in the middle of fights. I had this theory that it was something to do with the antivirus thing, so I used to play with it turned off, and I can't remember if that solved the problem or not, but I'll have to try for this playthrough. So after 2 failed attempts, I thought, well fine, auto-resolve it then. We did win, although our leading army took quite a few casualties. It was a much worse result than what we did with the 2 manual attempts. Liu Bei will accept back his captured soldiers and the siege at Shanyang is over, but with the enemy still having so many troops in the area, the issue certainly isn't resolved, and since we took almost as many losses as the enemy, we haven't really pressed any advantage in the area, or gained any advantage in the area I should say. Now back to Zhang Liao. I moved south to take out this small Cao Cao army, just a couple of units, and I went in to do it manually because I wanted to guarantee a nice clean victory. Our cavalry annihilate the enemy's archers, and my heavy cavalry are just going to charge into the enemy's infantry because now I was more confident that this was a good idea. I felt willing to just plough through things like peasant conscripts with cav. And here we take out the enemy captain and their infantry just routs without much of a fight. We end up winning with only 15 losses to kill something like 500 enemies. Now that's a good ratio. That's the end of this turn then. Time to see what the enemy have in store for us. The Cao clan start moving away from the front line. Their main army, which I thought was going to come and besiege something in our territory, went off to fight rebels, a really small rebel army as well. So that was great. Looks like we've been bought some time at the very least. And other armies are seen moving away, and just generally they don't commit much to putting forces on our border, which is fantastic news. As for the Liu clan, they're also mobilizing, but this time in our direction, so it looks like something's going to happen. But there was a big move from them. The army that I assumed would besiege Lujun moved off somewhere else, so no siege there. We're going to have more time to recruit troops and prepare, so this could be vital for us. The city of Chou is rioting. It's got like no public order since I've only got a couple of men in there as the garrison. Zhang Liao will get a chance to rest then by the looks of things. I need to consolidate his army a bit, and then we can put the army inside the city and just be defensive. I think I did move a few of his units over to Juiyang as well, so we'll just generally defend the southern end of our territory while we'll focus our offensives on the north against Liu Bei. Again, I asked the Cao clan for peace, and again they said no, just rejected, it says. So they're on the verge of wanting peace. Those 2 defeats we inflicted on them in the last turn didn't quite convince them. Now, I spent a while organising our frontline armies. I needed to move lots of half-dead units out of these armies after that not very good auto-resolve, but we ended up with a full-stack army ready to go against the Liu clan, and the first thing we'll want to do is attack the forces they deployed just over the border here under Liu Wei. We have a decent numerical advantage, but the enemy army is quite good, so there's no overwhelming balance bar advantage. Some experienced troops, some heavy troops, and no conscripts or peasant levy troops here, so professional armies going at it. Both sides are about even when it comes to archers, so what I tried to do was move some light cav forwards to feint, maybe baiting some enemy archers to come and attack us on their own. As I started that move, it actually just happened before I even did it. Some archers came out on their own, and our guys can start firing, so that's good. However, at the same time, their heavy cav started charging forwards, and I wasn't willing to take any chances. I came back here to manually get my guys to skirmish away before we have to rely on anything automatic. However, that was actually a feint. Their cav stopped halfway. Now those archers that the enemy sent out will have a better time, since my archer line is spread in amongst my melee troops. Lots of guys won't fire properly because their line of sight is blocked, and just generally these crossbows here won't get completely annihilated. That said, they do pull off some classic medieval 2 moves where archer units sometimes reform and move about on the spot for a bit and don't fire for all intents and purposes. So they didn't do any damage to us. Then more archers came up and the skirmish got more serious. Then another cavalry feint came in. The heavy cav get closer and closer to our line. I start running away, but they're still not committing to an attack. This may be the AI just realizing that I'm running away and not charging into my spear wall, which is an unusual thing because the later Total War AIs totally would just go for the spear wall attack. Finally, the enemy's infantry started charging in and it was time to get this fight going. I'm condensing my infantry together because my line is too wide. There's me accidentally ordering my archers to go on the flanking move. Luckily I realised I'd done it, so my heavy cav will go around to the right. My light cav were on the left and the enemy's heavy cav went over and attacked them while I wasn't paying attention. That's nasty, but I can now lure them back towards some more of my heavy cav and some spearmen to try and take them out. My archers are firing over the top of everything at the enemy's archers, but we can actually take them out much faster using our heavy cav since they have nothing to guard the rear of their army now. Our cav get in there and start scattering the archers. The enemy general, or the enemy heavy cav, sorry, which had their captain among them, was taken out on our left flank by spears and our cavalry. That left just 1 unit of swordsmen, I think, hanging around still fighting that one there that's not been engaged. Clearly we can take the enemy down at this point. In the centre it was a little bit of a brawl since it was units of equal quality fighting each other, so not the best fight, but with numbers on our side the enemy routed quite quickly. Eventually, a decent result. The enemy lost something like 6 times the amount of men that we did, and for a relatively balanced engagement, that's pretty good. Now, I quickly offered ransom on the captives and then immediately realised that was actually quite a lot of captives we gave them back there, and they're going to be straight back into the fight since they retreated to just next to where we are already. That is a shame. I should have executed them, really. Looking at those enemy armies, I realised there's potential for a siege draw out here. The enemy's got a big army inside the city of Xiaopei, but there's a smaller army just to the north that we can attack to force them outside of the walls. Just before I committed to doing anything like that, I decided to reinforce Lu Jun to the north, using more mercenaries that could pop outside to hire. So now I've got a decent force inside there, half a stack, meaning all of these little enemy armies that are about the place probably won't be able to threaten it. With that done, I thought, okay, let's just jump in and go for the Xiaopei attack. No guarantees, but might as well give it a go. It takes me a while to actually give the move order because I don't know what I'm doing. And there we go, a balanced engagement with the garrison successfully drawn out. And while it is a balanced engagement, as I said, the enemy army is split up into lots of small groups, meaning things should be a little bit easier than they look. We'll find out, I suppose, next time.